For those of you who still feel as if you don't quite know me well enough yet, then allow me to provide a simple go-to rundown on the deep, complex character that is me. Hi, my name's Jay, and I fucking hate everyone and everything. My contempt for this world and everything on it is something matched only by the certainty in which I'm reminded of every day that everything and everyone is pointless because all things are created and exist solely to one day end. And Spyro the Dragon is a fun, colourful platformer/collectathon first released in 1998 by Insomniac Games for the PlayStation 1, and is, coincidentally, the only thing in this cold, meaningless world that can successfully extract any ounce of joy from my dead soul. The reasons for which are many, but all are something that I want to cover by taking a look at the first Spyro the Dragon game. Mainly because I just want an excuse to play it, but I also feel like people nowadays tend to avoid first entries, seeing them as the rough practice in a series that eventually takes off thanks to a game that isn't the first, or whatever the fuck. Honestly though, I just want an excuse to play it. Plus, I haven't played the first game since I first played the first game, back when I was still a moderately happy, fun-loving child. So maybe it'll be like I'm playing it all over again for the first time, tapping into that lost happiness gland whilst being reminded of just why Spyro nowadays is considered to have the best games of all time. Don't look that up. I wish I could say the same for the story, however, because the game introduces us to the fact that it's appealing to little kids with the use of a shit story device. Sure, while you can make the argument that not all kids' games have a bad story and not all simple stories are bad stories, so there's no excuse, but I can also make the argument that you should shut the fuck up. The game opens on the autistic land of butterflies and dragons, as some of them give a two-camera monologue stating that the game's already predefined villain, Nasty Nork, is ugly, who then retaliates by encasing every single one of them in crystal, but not Spyro, who somehow instantly recognises that he's the last one and that it's all up to him to set out on an adventure to rescue them all and slay the foul villain. An intro so forced and obviously written last that I was genuinely surprised to find out that it wasn't written by fucking Kid Icarus, although it might as well have been. All it needed was a zoomed in high contrast audio. So once the game relinquishes control, it's obvious that the crystal dragons act as this game's power crystals. Stars, jiggies, fucking nuclear atoms, you know, the classics. And you rescue them through a variety of different overworlds and a handful of levels within each overworld, the first overworld being Artisans, which is Spyro's lush green homeworld. The residents pride themselves on their home, which is a vast meadow of healthy green grass and gentle waterfalls. By the way, the Spyro wiki is a thing that exists, and if you've ever seen a Minecraft Gangnam Style parody, then you know exactly the cocktail of emotions you're in for. For example, there's for some reason a recorded coldest level in any Spyro game. 1, where did they get this information from? And 2, who the fuck cares? I do. Deeply. Although the game succeeds in making the actual collecting and progressing satisfying, unfortunately, once rescued, each dragon is nice enough to give me yet another taste of voice acting and a helpful constant reminder that I'm spending my Saturday night listening to this.
Welcome to Magic Crafters. I want you to release the dragons, reclaim our treasure, and recover the eggs from those pesky blue thieves.
So to break up the tedium and no doubt drag out that playtime, the game also features other collectibles like gems and dragon eggs, because God forbid you give players the impression that collectathons have no other depth. While the dragon eggs are probably the most fucking pointless collectibles in any game I've ever played, in fact even the game agrees since they're dropped entirely after the third overworld, they exist nicely to give people like me the chance to point out that it's a bit weird that all the dragons are clearly male with the only child being Spyro, yet there's like 12 dragon eggs. And although I'm no better than the Spyro wiki at this point, that is a bit weird. The gems though are a reason not to ever play this game if you have some kind of freakish obsessive compulsive disorder, or even if you don't, because you will do after this. The only explanation that exists is that they must have employed some kind of fucking black magic mind trick. They're so perfectly coloured that they always seem to stand out and glisten in the distance regardless of the insane colour of the levels, not to mention how huge and clunky they are. They give me this weird ASMR, almost like if I had a handful of them they'd make this sound. And thus a compulsive need akin to fucking heroin sets in to collect absolutely every single one of them in existence. It really is something that no other game has or ever will do as well, and although that is entirely likely due to how susceptible I am to this kind of purposefully addicting stuff, it doesn't make it any less annoying that I started this game for 2 minutes of footage and ended up spending days 120%ing the entire fucking thing. There is, however, a reason to play this game. believe it or not. And that's for the levels, which sounds pretty pathetic, but instead of, like every game ever, them just being themed stages, for once here they're entire breathing worlds with unique styles, buildings, natives, and I have no doubt the Spyro wiki could tell you, deep enriched cultures and political systems. Oh good! A list of best levels in Spyro is a feature-length video on its own, and even then good luck with that because each one is just as good as the last. Except treetops, that's my next video, why treetops can fuck off. They range in size from a small one with around 300 gems, a big one with 500 gems, and later on in the game a small one with 500 gems, but 400 of them are in a tiny little fuck off area that no one could feasibly be able to get to without a walkthrough. They're my favourites. No they're not. What they are though regardless is the perfect blend of art style working with graphics, which results in the single best looking game design wise I've ever seen to this day. It's so good that I'm certain I could write a fucking essay on this game's skyboxes and architecture alone. I mean I could, but I won't, because that would be gay. A downside to that however is it just makes this even more of a shame.
Where's Nasty Nork? I'll torch him.
God, he is such a little shit. The rest of the audio, however, I've heard the term unique and enchanting be thrown around a lot, but I believe the term fucking masterpiece is a far more accurate description. And I really don't want that going down with the rest of the shit I say and don't mean, because this time I actually do. Stuart Copeland has made my favourite soundtracks of all time. And not only do they exist as my favourite soundtracks of all time, they also function as a nice little reminder that nothing you ever achieve in your life will ever surpass the originality and quality contained within these songs, leaving me just sat there staring at FL Studio getting really angry. As far as controls go, you notice very quickly that although the directional movement is perfect, Spyro's jumping height and movement speed on the other hand is more akin to But to compensate for this, the entire game is designed around both the gliding and charging ability, which pretty much is the reason why it's as unique and as brilliant as it is, in that it's like a sprint button with an actual purpose, but they both don't quite control how you think they would. Instead of just slowing your turning speed and increasing your forward momentum like you would assume, it locks you onto this whole on-rails type deal, only allowing you to Tokyo drift your way around corners. Which is weird, but it makes you feel overpowered, and there's just this really funny comedic element that brings, because you're smaller than every other asset in the entire game, yet you can kill anything with one button. And if there's something this video desperately needs, it's any form of a comedic element. And this especially applies to the boss fight stages, because I can use it to justify why they're so shit. Look, they're running away from you because they're scared, isn't that funny? Kinda like how when you play Crash, you get this feeling that he doesn't really understand exactly what he's doing, he just sort of runs forward and a sequence of jumps somehow results in him saving the world, except Spyro's better. What? Something else you've probably noticed is how they work the UI into the environment, like how Sparks the Dragonfly is your health bar or how the value of each gem is displayed as a 3D model detached from your HUD. And I'm sure they did actually try it and decided against it already for whatever reason, but if they really wanted immersion, it would have been nice if they could have also done it with the gem count and lives, but hey, what the fuck do I know? Nothing. And apparently so, because another feature of Spyro the Dragon I avoided mentioning is the flight sections, because if you would have asked me my opinion on forced flight levels and PS1 platformers before now, I would have read you a detailed description of where exactly you could stick them. In the trash. But instead, to my surprise, after actually playing them, yeah, still not a huge fan to be honest. I mean, I get that they were trying to introduce variety, but having good levels and not good levels doesn't mean the not good levels aren't shit. And obviously I mean relatively, but even if you gave a choice to the person who disagreed the most with that between Ice Cavern and flat ocean texture, and they chose the ocean, then why are you talking to that lunatic? Sure, Spyro is one of my favourite games of all time, which is why I've just spent this entire video complaining about it. And although the issues are subtle, they're still inexcusable, which is the only thing preventing this game from being perfect, which sucks because it almost is, but maybe in a possible sequel? The music, the art style, the design, the colour, the controls, the story, the voice acting, the flight stages, the boss fights, it's like the issues annoy me more because the game is so otherwise the best ever of all time. Jay, 2017. The legacy of Spyro the Dragon included 2 sequels and 3 GBA games, and anyone who says otherwise needs to be euthanized. Not that I advocate euthanasia, I just think they should fucking die. Stuart Copeland went on to do nothing of importance after having done the only thing of importance he'll ever do before putting the song Jack from this game on his compilation album in 2007, dooming him to a life of constant attention-seeking attempts from nerds on Twitter. And me. Except I'm outside his house at 4 AM. Upon the game's release though, critically it received awful reviews that are nowhere near as good as mine and somehow even worse scores. Some I even saw reaching as low as 82% from PlayStation Magazine. And it's at this point that I'd like to reaffirm my stance on euthanasia, although on a completely unrelated note, I'm curious as to where exactly that man lives and how much a hitman would cost on the deep web.
Thank you for releasing...